Well, at the start of the entire series, Mary was this extremely stubborn young woman, a kind of standoffishness that comes from being the first child but not a son, you know, unable to inherit, actually just quite immature. And things happen to her and the family, losing Sybil, you know, eventually then losing a husband. She matures. I guess I sort of judged her in the beginning. I thought, oh, she's just this, you know, not very likable, posh cow, you know? But she, of course, became this very complicated woman, and there was much more colour in the palette than I'd imagined. She has the last word on everything, you know, wants to do good by her parents, but at the same time, she's fighting against them. There was this sibling rivalry between them. And they just know how to push each other's buttons, you know, and wind each other up, as siblings can do. Mary's very destructive. It comes from her feeling so bad about herself and actually disliking herself so much that she just wants to destroy everyone else's life. And she knows she's doing it. With Edith, I just say things and then they can't be unsaid. It's like an awareness. It's like as she says it, as it comes out of her mouth, she knows how awful she's being. Storyline with Pamuk very much cemented the character of Mary. People weren't expecting to see such a scandal during that period. The Turkish diplomat dying in her bed. It's really shocking, it's scandalous, and the audience feel that way. She became very vulnerable and then proceeded to live with this secret and this shame. And then, of course, Richard Carlyle threatened to publish the story. Mary has the, you know, saucy weekend away with Gillingham. That scandal then becomes the next thing. I had this great line to Rita Bevan. "Don't bother, you're not the first person who's tried to blackmail me." As I was saying it, kind of in my head and thinking, because of the reputation of the family and who they are and their status in this world, those stories could still affect Mary quite badly if she's not careful. Matthew and Mary, I remember at the time, someone said they're like the Ross and Rachel of period drama. Well, she objects to Matthew because she hates anyone being pushed upon her. And because he is the heir, she doesn't really have a choice. It's an arranged marriage, essentially. She's kind of forced to fall in love with this person, so she's just resisting it. Mary's a terrible snob, so Matthew's just not good enough in her eyes. I think that's what was so great about that relationship, is actually the audience could see that they were perfect for one another, and that Mary was just being spoiled and, you know, resisting it as much as possible just to, you know, in spite of her parents. There was a lot of anticipation leading up to the proposal scene, and the setting was so beautiful. I remember it just being really fun and sort of knowing that it was quite a magical scene, and the ending to finally an ending to this dance that had been going on for 2 years between the two characters. And then, of course, it all changed when he died. Well, her reaction to his death is shock in the beginning. She's not really showing any emotion. She's just in this very, very dark place. She won't leave the house. She won't spend any time with George because, obviously, every time she looks at him, she thinks of Matthew. Poor little orphan. And so the family, in that first episode in Series 4, are just finding ways of trying to pull her out of this dark hole that she's in. The great line in Series 4 when she says to Violet, "Somehow, with Matthew's death, all the softness that he found in me seems to have dried up and drained away. Maybe it was only ever there in his imagination." I think that kind of summed up the character in a lot of ways, because he, you know, Matthew really brought out the best in Mary. She needs to let go, and that's what Carson and Violet recognise. It's that she needs to grieve properly. The accident with Charlie Rogers and Mary's, initial reaction that, it could have been Henry in that car, it just sort of pushes her back into her shell again. So she just decides to just protect herself. She doesn't want to fall in love with this person. She can't bear to be hurt again. She just wants to kind of stay in this dark place. It's safer there than actually pushing through and being happy.
Being hurt is part of being alive. But that is no reason to give up on the man who's right for you.
She sort of discovers in the end that it's not about finding the next great love after Matthew. It's actually just love for herself. In the words of Whitney Houston, the greatest love of all. In the end, she is happy. And I guess she's made some kind of peace with herself and begins to like herself much more. I think it's well put together at the end. I like the ending that she has.
Well, Mr. Talbot, you have swept me off my feet.
I promise you won't be sorry.
I better not be.